Today we're going to cover a little bit of what the foundation of the house looked like. So this is livable space is 16 foot wide and 40 foot long, and then there's a 8 foot front patio off the front of it, which is over here in this area. So when the guy got out here with the tractor that day, he only had a 24-inch bucket. So rather than go get the other 18-inch bucket, we went ahead and did 24-inch wide footings. So it's extra strong because it's supposed to be 18. So the footings on this thing are going to be, let me look here, they're 8 inches thick, 24 inches wide, and they've got rebar running through them. So basically that's just a picture. I spread some gravel out here, got everything as flat as I could, and this area in here is very important. Now is your chance to make this flat and level. You don't want holes and stumps and junk, everything underneath there. So you get that stuff out of there, and then there it is again. Beautiful day. I think this was right about May. So right after we dug the footings, we went ahead and bent the rebar. You can see it down here in this section. I don't think we were done with rebar at this time. I think we had to add one more piece, but here's the front landing for the steps. This got real crazy. It doesn't need to be this big, but we had to order so much concrete to get free delivery on it. It equaled out to where we could pour a giant footing out here. We had extra concrete, so we went extra big there. So those front steps that are setting right here ain't never going to go anywhere. So this is the footing for the house here, and you'll notice that we went ahead and did a footing all the way out here. So this is the patio area here. So like I said, we had more concrete than we needed at the time. So went ahead and just dug footings all the way out here. So basically you're supposed to come over here and do some piers and stuff like that. And we ended up doing those, but we went ahead and poured a footing underneath it the whole way. This is my hobo well protectant shed here, keep it from freezing before I had anything done. The well is underneath this little insulated box here. And that little black thing there is where I was getting my water from for 6 months while we built. So that was fun. We'd fill up the water jugs every night. We called it family time. Me and my wife would gather around the table and fill up 10 jugs of water, and it was fun. I don't ever want to do it again. But anyways, so we're looking at that, and then we go over to here, and you can see us pouring the footings. This is Tony. This guy, no, that's Chad. His dad's Tony. These guys were total badasses. That's Tony. He's running the chute. So we poured all the footings in there and got everything as flat as we could. I mean, we didn't make it perfect because it's a footing. So it had to be flat. It had to be level. It had to be straight. But so this house is like way overbuilt. This is the smallest house I've ever built. It's 640 square foot, and price per square foot, it's the most expensive house that I built, because when you build a small house, it's actually more expensive than building a bigger house. I mean, a bigger house is going to cost more, right? But when you're there, if you spread, another 10 foot, it wouldn't be that much more. Now, the reason that I did this is because this is my house for me and my wife, and I didn't want a big house anymore. I didn't need a big house. So we went ahead and just did this. And when I first started on this, I didn't know anyone here. I moved to a spot where I absolutely knew no one. No family, no cousins, no friends, no nothing. So I'm on the hunt for contractors, and luckily I ran into Tony, because without Tony, I don't know how we got the ball rolling. A lot of guys, the way they do it is they want you to come and get a concrete guy to come out, dig, do all the footings, and then they just want to do the block. But then you might end up with an argument, well, the block's crooked because the footings were crooked, or anything like that. So I like to keep it under one person doing it all. That way there's not a bunch of excuses, down the road. So this guy Tony also did the block, so he helped me out a lot. That was a great find to find that guy, and you know, I'm really happy with how it turned out. So, but basically, you know, you're looking at 24 inches across this footing. This house is never going anywhere. This is where the walls set, and all the way to the house sets, but this thing's only 16 foot wide, so there ain't a lot of weight. If you're building a 3,000 square foot house, these footings would be the same. So now this is all to code. Now a lot of people are gonna scream, I don't want to get a permit, I don't want to get a permit. I get a permit. This permit was only $479 for the building permit. And the underground electric ended up costing me $790. And the electric permit was $65. So it's well worth getting a permit, because if you ever go to sell it, if you ever need to get a loan, if you ever need to, you know, like if I wanted to get this done, take out a home equity line of credit, I could, because we paid cash for this. So we don't have any mortgage, we don't have anything like that. So get a permit. So here we are. This is pretty much poured. I think this is the next day when we had the block delivered and stuff. So again, this area here, man, now's the time to make it perfect, because you're going to be crawling around under there doing the plumbing, and you don't want a bunch of lumpy, dumpy stuff, and you know, just get it cleaned up so you can get underneath there and roll around without rolling around on piles of dirt. So basically, you know, start putting your block down on top of your footing. That's pretty easy to understand, I guess. So there's the sand, there's the mixer, and I started helping. I like to help, I like to learn, I like to do things. I've done a little bit of concrete before, but each guy does it a little bit different ways, and you can always pick up different ways of doing things. So they didn't care that I was helping. You know, actually, at the end of it, the block layer, Tony, he's like, Chris, you helped me so much. I said, well, you know, just trying to help you, you know, get everything done. He's like, how much do I owe you? I said, you don't owe me nothing. And he's, no, I'm paying you. You were good help. He's like, you ever want a job? Come see me. You were damn good help. So I didn't. That was my first block laying adventure. I guess I did pretty good, because at the end of it, he's like, I'm gonna give you $700. I'm like, no, Tony, you ain't give me $700. I said, $500. If you're gonna give me anything, that's fine. Well, that's ripping you off. I said, well, you didn't make that much on the job either. So, you know, I think this whole foundation, block laying, everything was $5,000. So, and then take, you know, 450 off, or I'm sorry, $500 off of that. So, next photo here. So this is where I was telling you, this is the patio out here. So normally you'd stop your footings right here, you know, but like I said, we had extra concrete. We knew we were going to have extra concrete, so just went ahead and dug them. So out here, this is all perfect. You know, you don't have to do that. We did, and you don't have to. So there it is again, same picture, pretty much the same thing. But I mean, look at those footings. It rained just a little bit the night before, and some of these chunks start to break off the side a little bit and went in there. So I shoveled it all out of there, and I wanted those footings to be 8 inches thick. Didn't want 6.5 in areas and 8 in others. I wanted 8. So when the inspector got there, I said, "How's it look?" He said, "Oh, man, that looks perfect." Because I really like it, and the inspector was a nice guy. You know, the inspectors, people think they're going to be a pain in the ass or something, but they're really not, as far as I've seen. You know, I suppose you could get a bad one, but you know, this guy, I mean, I don't know everything. So if an inspector can stop me from doing something stupid, and usually I'll tell the inspector that, you know, I told him, I said, I never built in this cold weather like that. So if you see any way that I can do better, like exceed code, that you like to do, or you know is a better thing, then let's do that, you know. So if you see me doing something, don't hesitate to stop me. I won't be upset, you know. Just has to be perfect, you know. So I think he liked that, you know. He knew I was going to try. I mean, it's my house. I'm not building this to sell in a year, so I'm going to do the best job that I can. And even when I was building houses to sell, I always did the best job I could, because my name's on the permit. So I don't, you know, my name's on the permit, and I want it to be as near perfect as you can get. So there we are again. It was a beautiful day that day. It felt good to get stuff going, you know. There's some more blocks. So there's our first course of block, you know. So we start laying the first course and then the second course, and then you got to put some rebar in there, you know, to upright rebar. And we're starting to get going now. My job was to take all these and load them outside of the wall so Tony could do the actual block laying. I was more of a block mover than a mason, you know, than a block laying guy. I think I did one because I wanted to do one, and it didn't look nearly as good as his, so I fixed it and we went on our way. But that was I'd be over at the mixer. I'd be dumping concrete in there. I think it was 1 bag of concrete, 11 shovels of sand, and, you know, get mixing. And then I'd mix it and I'd dump it into the wheelbarrow and I'd wheelbarrow it over to Tony. If you've never wheelbarrowed a wheelbarrow full of concrete, you're gonna really get strong, and you'll be sore after that first day because that is some hard work. So bought that little tractor, little Massey Ferguson 1723E with a backhoe. Now, these things, I mean, I think it was 20 grand out the door, 21.4 something like that out the door. So the payment is $300 a month, and there's no interest. And that little tractor now has about, I guess, 250 hours on it because I just got done doing my first service on it. And it's got a little backhoe on the back of it, you know. We didn't dig these with that backhoe. The guy had an excavator, and he was an expert. I can't run the backhoe very well. I'll be honest with you. I have my wife run the backhoe because it's kind of like a Pac-Man game. And she's really good at it. So there we are, you know, standing up all the block, getting ready for him to come in and start to lay the block. And it was just me and him most of the time. I think one day his boy Chad showed up, and another helper guy, I can't remember his name for sure, Chase or something, one of those young guy names. So there I am, still smiling. I guess I'm smiling because it's almost done. So I took the string level here. You know, you could use a laser or whatever, but the string level works really good. I wanted to see just how level it was when we got it done. And it was perfect. I won't even say it was close to perfect. It was absolutely perfect from end to end. I ran that string all the way down it from end to end, and it was perfect. So if you notice, we got 1, 2, 3, 4 blocks out of the ground. So I didn't want to get underneath there and crawl around. So if you can get 4 blocks out of the ground, that's enough to actually crawl underneath there and set up on your butt without hitting your head on the floor trusses. So there's my bubble level. That's proof. It's right in the middle. And I went in here and, you know, started raking, and I brought in a little more gravel, and it looked just perfect. I don't know if I got a picture of that, but it looked really great when I was done. This hole here, that's where you crawl underneath to do things. Now, you could put that anywhere you wanted to put, I guess. You know, you don't want it underneath the patio because then you got to crawl in. So, and it was much smaller than this. It was going to be like 16 by 16. I didn't think my fat little body would have fit through there. So he made it bigger. So that was nice. That was his idea. He's like, hey man, they got you like a 16 by 16 crawl space here. That seems small to me. You want to try to, you know, like a tunnel rat going in there. And I'm like, yeah, we can make it bigger. That would be awesome. So we made it bigger. And there it is towards the end. I'm kind of getting the final grading done around it, and everything was coming together real good at this time. You know, you see these little blocks here that are missing. That's where the vents go, because this is a vented underneath, so it's not sealed up. I'm not sure. Some people seal these things, wrap them in plastic. I don't know. I think more air movement. If I had done anything different, I honestly would have put another vent somewhere in here, you know, or over here. I think the more vents you can get, it lets the air exchange and it keeps down mold and stuff like that. Now, in the winter, you know, I cover these things up. They have, there might be a picture of the vents in here. So again, that's underneath the patio. So you got your two vents here, two vents down at this end, and two vents in the side. I would have probably went with maybe another vent, but anyways, it's too late to do that, and everything's fine. So I'm for the more airflow, the better. So I got some more gravel in, so I could do this, you know, underneath here, and little tractor really, really paid for itself. And up here, so you know, you're gonna have a board that lays across here, and I'm figuring if there's any termites, they're gonna want to come up here. I want to see them. I don't want them coming through the center holes in the block and coming up through into the bottom of the floor. So I drilled and made all these pieces of metal. I had the metal fabrication shop where I get the roofing and stuff make these for me, and it was really good. You know, I sealed them down as good as I could. You know, around here, around this, you know, the bolts that you bolt the bottom plate down to. So that worked out pretty good. I ended up really liking this when I was done. The framers are like, I've never seen that before. I'm like, yeah, I'm trying. Oh, that's a pretty good idea, you know. So, anyways, I think it was a good idea. There it is again. You know, you'll see that if anything, it's going to have to crawl from the outside, and it's going to have to crawl up the outside. You know, on the inside here, I'll see a termite trail or ants or anything like that making their little trail up. So I don't think, and we have termites here, but I think they have carpenter ants are the worst thing than termites. So see what we got next here. Really nothing. This block here was on the plan, but it never got used because your patio connects to here. So that block, we're not actually sure what that was for, but it's there. If you ever need it, there it is. That's more of that, just, you know, getting the metal cut and everything, getting everything straight and drilling the holes in it. I just set the metal up on there and popped it with a hammer, and that showed me where the holes was, and I was pretty close. So then you come back in here and seal these up real good with some epoxy stuff, not like liquid nails, something that kind of stays a little bit softer but still keeps things from coming up through there. But my thought was that right here where this is, anything can come up through the bottom of that brick. So that was my idea there. And then I went around to the outside and I put down weed cloth all the way around it so I wouldn't have weeds growing up right next to the foundation. That actually worked out really well. I had to cut a couple pieces here to dig a couple lines to go through. So I messed it up a little bit, I guess. I couldn't really wait to do it, so I just went ahead and did it at that time. But I don't have any weeds, so that did work out really well. There's more of that. The porta-john over there, that was till we got the septic. I think we got the septic done. I think the septic was done at this time because I called the septic guy and I said, man, I need to get a septic. You know, he said, well, let me see what I can do. I'll see if I can put you in front of another job because that guy I don't have to do till spring. So I'll get over there as soon as I can. And he showed up about 5 days later. Now septic was $6,150, I think. It was a little bit more because I had to use an extra long piece of pipe to go down, you know, through there. So yeah, the septic's in another video if you want to check that out. Just a regular gravity flow septic, that's what you want to get if you can. So there it is. Oh, she's getting about ready for framing, and that's I think a day later, 4 days later or something, the lumber all showed up, and it was all moldy and had been sitting around for years. So we had a little squabble about that, and I made him bring out all new stuff because I wasn't going to accept that. Lumber. I didn't want to start off with moldy lumber on a brand new house. So there was a couple morons in the comments that I spray it with bleach. I ain't spraying it with bleach. It shouldn't have been moldy, and I'm not taking the extra effort to spray anything with bleach that might or might not mold. Because if I go to sell this thing, I'm going to get a home inspector, and when he goes up in those rafters, even though that mold is from 5 years ago, and it's dry, it still doesn't matter. It looks like it's leaking. He don't know it's from 5 years ago. He knows that he sees mold, and then you got a problem. So don't accept any bad materials from anyone. You know, you have the right. You pay good money for new materials, and that's what you're going to get is new materials. And you might have to argue, and you're not going to be that lumber company's best friend anymore. Which I ain't looking for friends. I'm looking for quality materials. So that's about it, I guess. We're just in there raking around, getting ready to put some more gravel down there because I had to do the plumbing on this. I'm a little claustrophobic, so crawling under this dark area and doing plumbing wasn't one of my favorite pieces. But it's like I told the wife, there ain't nobody else coming. And, I got into a issue with a plumber on another house, and he was the plumber that turned into a bummer. And we ended up in court and everything else. Anyways, I had to fight, got all my money back from that dummy. And I started doing plumbing. So I've done the plumbing on the last 3 houses I built because of him. So now I don't have to get a $6,000 plumbing quote. I can do it myself for about $1,500 using the best materials you can find. And I don't have to argue with any inbred plumber guy. So I guess that's pretty much about it for this one. I don't know if there's anything I can add other than get a permit. Go to the county. Go to the county and ask them. Walk in there. Say, can I speak to the building inspector? Normally he's out doing something, but you can usually get an appointment with him. When I first got to do this, I had a different plan. It was much bigger until I ran into, maybe not being able to find any help. So I figured, you know what? Now's the time just to do this house. And that way, if I have to frame it and do everything myself, I can do it, but get a permit. So there's the vents. These things have little closures on them that are supposed to, little vents, and they close up when it gets cold or it gets hot or whatever, but they don't work very well. There were times they should have been opened and they were closed. I took them out of there. I don't have these metal deals in here anymore. It's just a vent. These things are plastic. It's pretty much all you're going to find anywhere. I'm going to rip these out of there and build some metal ones when I get some time. I don't like this plastic stuff, so I'm going to have to replace it sooner or later. I might as well replace it when I feel like replacing it. So finishing up the gravel on the outside. The reason I did this is because it was going to rain. There was going to be rain. There had been rain. It didn't rain at all, actually. We were framing, so we got pretty lucky there. But lumber stayed perfectly dry, so I didn't have any problems there. But I didn't want to be trekking in the mud around here. This I had watered down to try to pack it down a little bit. I rolled over it with the tractor a little bit later and got it to where it was really packed. And the framers really appreciated that because they're used to walking around and having to throw their shoes away at the end of the day. So that's about it, I guess. Just a couple more pictures that were in this thing. I wish I could have videoed it, but I didn't have a camera at the time, so I went ahead and took pictures. So these are where the front patio lumber sets on, to support the front of the patio. So let's see if there's anything else here. Me raking, look at that. I got that thing so perfect inside there. This is your chance right now, folks. You got to get in here and get this done, because otherwise you'll be rolling around in a mess. So I guess that's the end of the video. I'm going to do some more like this, trying to show people, you can build your own house. I don't have to build the whole thing. If I can, I didn't want to have to frame this. These guys were 3 young framer dudes out of North Carolina, and man, they did great work, and they were done in like 2 days, dried in. And the quote on the lumber was, I can't remember. I think that it was about 15 grand in lumber and windows and a front door. And then to frame it and dry it in, they charged me $8,000. And that was them putting the windows in, putting on all the zip tape, And when we did the windows, you can get some stuff from Zip called stretch tape that goes around. You go around the windows with that in case you ever should happen to have a leak. At this time, we were going to do vinyl siding, but it ended up doing metal siding. The same place I had gotten the lumber from was who delivered the siding, and I loaded all the siding in the house, vinyl siding. So I guess that's it for now. Ended up sending all that vinyl siding back and went with metal siding. Because they called one day and they said, "Hey, all that siding we brought you," he said, you brought you way too much siding. You must know you got way too much siding. You got twice the amount of siding you needed. I need to get the rest of that siding back." I'm like, "I'll tell you what, come and pick up all the siding." It was kind of acting like I was a thief, and like I wasn't going to tell them that they delivered too much siding. Well, I didn't know because it was still in a pile inside the house. And with the Zip siding and the tape on it, once I got it dried in, I could slow down just a little bit, take a breath, and decide what I wanted to do, so I guess that's it for now. You can subscribe to the channel. There'll be some more stuff like this and other assorted tidbits that somebody might need when they're doing something. All right, have a good one.